around 71, partly sunny. On the way down to 51 tonight. Good afternoon to you. I'm Michelle Durham. Our top story at 4:01. Philadelphia detectives looking for a young woman they say has been missing since this past weekend. And her family says it's very unlike her. Investigators say the details surrounding her disappearance have them concerned. Joining us live, the details, KYW Crime and Justice reporter Kristen Johanson.
Yeah, Michelle, 23-year-old Kada Scott was last seen leaving her home by her mother. That home was on Rodney Street in East Mount Airy. She was going to work an overnight shift from Saturday to Sunday at a nearby nursing home. She was only there for a little bit, and then she left prior to her shift's completion, the captain says. But they did find her car in the work parking lot. Police did recover that car, and they're processing it. Investigators say that they're concerned about this because family and friends say that this is very unlike the 23-year-old. She's a large social media presence. She's energetic and bright, they described her, and she would be in touch in some way. The family is sure of that, but her phone is now off. She's posted nothing on social media, and again, she's 23 years old, and she hasn't been heard from. Now, the part that has them concerned, this kind of all culminates with an additional piece of information. They say in the days prior to this disappearance, Scott had talked to the family and friends and said that basically there was somebody or some people that were harassing her through the phone. They don't know exactly, or they didn't relay to us whether or not that was by text message or social media. They're pleading with the public to call in with any tips. They say that there's really no piece of information here. If you've seen this woman, that would go unnoticed. They think that, really any piece of this could be the piece that they need to bring her home. A picture of Scott can be seen on our website and social media, KYWNewsradio.com. Again, if you have seen this woman, 23-year-old Kada Scott, they are asking for you to call in with a tip.
Breaking news on KYW Newsradio.
Philadelphia police have a suspect in custody in the disappearance of 23-year-old Kada Scott. KYW's Crime and Justice reporter Kristen Johanson joins us live from police headquarters with the very latest on this. Kristen?
Yeah, Denise, they just had a press conference here, and the biggest takeaway here is that they're still looking for Kada Scott. They're still looking for the 23-year-old who has been missing since October 4th, but they do have a person in custody who they say was involved in her disappearance. He's now been charged with kidnapping. His name is Keon King. He has been charged with kidnapping and actually has been charged with kidnapping before the district attorney's office, who was here, had a case where they say that he kidnapped and assaulted a woman, domestic in nature, I should say, but that case was dropped back in May. They are going to recharge King in that case as well. Now, what the biggest takeaway from here was that the police officials say that they are asking for all the public to look out their windows, look at their streets. They're looking for a metallic gold Toyota Camry, which has a heavy front end damage, which they say is connected to the disappearance of Scott. Now, they don't know what could possibly be in there, but they do say that King discarded evidence, and so this is a big piece of evidence that they would need. So they're asking everybody to be on the lookout for metallic gold Toyota Camry. They do have a license plate they gave us, MSX0797. But anybody who may see that on their streets, they're asking for police to call in. They say that the public has been incredibly helpful with this investigation so far. They've gotten a lot of tips in from the public. They are working with the FBI. They're still trying to look for Scott. She is still missing, and again, has been missing since October 4th. Denise.
All right, the search continuing for 23-year-old Kada Scott.
The disappearance of Kada Scott. The latest on KYW Newsradio.
Philadelphia's district attorney seemed to point the blame at judges for not previously keeping the man charged with kidnapping Kada Scott behind bars. 23-year-old Scott has been missing for nearly 2 weeks now, and authorities are still searching for her. KYW Crime and Justice reporter Kristen Johanson.
Keon King was arrested earlier this year for allegedly kidnapping a woman, assaulting and choking her. Prosecutors withdrew the case because District Attorney Larry Krasner says they were ordered to by a judge, all because the victim and witness didn't show up for a court listing.
And the reason they had to worry that he was going to come out of the same door they went in the courthouse right after they testified against him is because he was on bail.
Krasner says they asked for $1 million bail, but a judge lowered it to $200,000. King was released after paying 10% of that. Asked why his office didn't appeal the bail, considering a gun was allegedly used in the crime, Krasner deflected, saying appeals are done at night when judges are uncooperative.
They don't raise it, they don't leave it, they lower it. So it is always a complex strategic decision.
And why would they do that, he says?
Because they don't want to awaken in the middle of the night, because they don't want appeals.
Former Judge Pat Dugan, who is running for district attorney against Larry Krasner, says you can go to many levels of the court system.
The district attorney has multiple opportunities to appeal a bail decision. It's up to them to make the appeal.
Kristen Johanson, KYW Newsradio, 103.9 FM.
Good evening, I'm Al Ganoza, and our top story at 9:01.
The disappearance of Kada Scott, the latest on KYW Newsradio.
Human remains were found this afternoon, and the area police were searching for 23-year-old Kada Scott, who has been missing since October 4th. Police say they will wait on the medical examiner's office to complete their investigation before confirming an identity. We get more on the story from KYW's Sonny Morgan.
First Deputy Commissioner John Stanford says an anonymous tip led them to a shallow grave behind the abandoned Ada H. Lewis Middle School in East Germantown.
It's a wooded area that goes beyond the school. And so we begin to go back into that area where we will locate a shallow grave after being able to remove some of the debris back there, able to locate the body of a human being. All indications at this point is that it's a female.
Officials began searching the area Saturday morning after receiving the tip the night before. Police searched the area in days prior, and Stanford says they plan to do additional searches through the weekend.
When you know that you're looking for something but don't know where someone hid it, it's not that easy of a process. And so we were here. We were on the other side.
Scott has been missing since going to work at a Chestnut Hill nursing home 1 week ago. A Delaware man has been charged in her kidnapping. Community members gathered outside the abandoned school, sharing their frustrations about the police's handling of the case. Stanford says he understands their anger.
Is this the conclusion that we wanted? Absolutely not. But at this point now, we have to do everything in our power to ensure that we bring justice for this family and some level of closure.
In East Germantown, Sonny Morgan, KYW Newsradio, 103.9 FM.
The disappearance of Kada Scott, the latest on KYW Newsradio.
Sources have confirmed to KYW Newsradio that the remains found over the weekend in Germantown have been identified as 23-year-old Kada Scott, who had been missing for 2 weeks. KYW's Crime and Justice reporter Kristen Johanson has been covering the story.
Based on a tip, authorities searched the woods behind the vacant Ada Lewis Middle School and found the body of a female buried in a shallow grave. Now, sources have confirmed it's 23-year-old Kada Scott. Scott went missing October 4th after arriving for her overnight shift at a Mount Airy assisted living facility. She left the building. Her car was still in the parking lot the next morning, but police say there had been no phone or digital activity. They asked for the public's help, and they say tips came pouring in. Officials announced the arrest of 21-year-old Keon King last week, and he was charged with kidnapping and related offenses. And almost immediately after that press conference, they got an anonymous tip to go to the middle school. Police, prosecutors, K-9 units, and other investigators spent hours searching the area and found significant evidence. That same afternoon, they located King's car parked in a condo complex in East Falls, where some of his family lives. The medical examiner is still waiting to make their determination on the cause and manner of death. Kristen Johanson, KYW Newsradio, 103.9 FM.
We start this edition of The Week in Philly with the story that has dominated the headlines the last couple of weeks, and it's a story that came to a tragic resolution this past weekend. The disappearance of Kada Scott. After being missing for 2 weeks, her remains were discovered in a wooden area in Germantown by the rec center near the vacant Ada Lewis Middle School. Let's bring in KYW Crime and Justice reporter Kristen Johanson for more. And Kristen, first off, take us quickly back through the timeline, beginning with Kada Scott going missing on October 4th.
So Kada, we know on October 4th, leaves her house to go to work a 10 to 6 shift at this assisted living nursing home facility in Chestnut Hill. We now know based on court records that basically at 10:12, she receives a phone call from somebody. She seems upset. And that's when she leaves to walk out towards a black car in the parking lot. We know that the next day,
is when her mother says she never returned home from work, she's not home, and reports her missing. On October 8th, that's when the police have this press conference that announces that she's missing. And that's when this cold case kind of publicly kicks off.
So what have we learned about the circumstances of Kada Scott's death?
So the medical examiner has released that she died basically by a gunshot wound to the head. They made the manner of death a homicide because usually there's a cause and a manner of death that is listed. I do know from sources that there was a forensic anthropologist that was also involved in the autopsy report. They found, as we know, the remains over the weekend. And so I know that they all kind of worked together to figure out exactly what happened to Kada Scott.
What were the details surrounding the discovery? Because I know this had been a spot that police had made multiple trips to during the search, correct?
Yeah, so there's a couple pieces to this that we learned in those court documents. So one is that she was found specifically on kind of the border in this wooded area that if you're out on this street on Ardley, there's a school, the Ada Lewis Middle School, where we talked about last week, where all of the police were out looking for evidence. They spent most of the day, I think it was about 15 hours, out at that location. They didn't find anything. Next to the school is a rec center, this Aubrey Rec Center. We now know she was found kind of mostly, I would say, on the border between the rec center and the school. She was buried in a shallow grave. She was taken for an autopsy. We actually have more information now about kind of what led up to that. We understand now that there is surveillance video that shows that black car entering the rec center. And the next day, a gold car shows up and two people get out of that gold car. They seem to pull something heavy from that car and bring it to the back of kind of the area where she was found, she was discovered. And then there's, back and forth with the cars, leaving, coming, going. And we understand that on October 7th, so the day before police announced this, we do know that that black car was found on fire in West Oak Lane. And we also know that last week they found the gold car. One thing also to note is that police do believe that Kada got into that car that they believe was driven by Keon King and was dead probably within minutes. We do know that her phone was dead within 9 minutes of when she received that 1012 call from whoever to get into that black car at her place of work.
Now, Keon King, the man who has been charged this week with her killing, do we have any idea of a possible motive, or is that a puzzle they're still piecing together?
I know that investigators they have ideas, they have, I'll say, threads that they're trying to pull at, but there's no clear-cut motive just yet. That's not even publicly available. They just really don't know. They're continuing to investigate.
Now, we talked about this last week, but I think it bears repeating and going deeper on. Keon King had been arrested previously in connection with kind of a similar case, but the charges were dropped there. Have we learned more about why and what happened there?
So the district attorney, Larry Krasner, held a press conference this week, and this was obviously asked multiple times. The backstory to this is that back in January, there was a woman who was essentially accused Keon King of abducting her, choking her and biting her face with his 2-year-old child in the back seat, eventually dropping her off. She ended up filing a police report, and then they arrested King months later. And then they have a status kind of between that. And then there's the prelim is set for the end of May. And we know that the witness and the victim both did not show up to court. And Krasner did point to the judges, saying that it's really because of them. He did this last week. He said it's their issue because they put bail to be too low. We asked for $1 million and they only put bail to be $200,000, and you need 10% of that, which is what King posted. But he did say this week that ultimately the buck stops with him.
So what is next in this case?
They are continuing every day to pull video, to talk to witnesses. There's a couple of things here. They got a tip that basically led them to the exact spot where Scott's body was found. They also see on surveillance video, according to the criminal complaint affidavit, that there is a second person that helps King remove the body essentially from the trunk. They also are working, obviously, to identify anybody else who is involved in this. But I will say that there are 3 people in this criminal complaint that they say that they brought in and talked to. 2 of them are women that King lived with. And they're not connected at this point to what happened, but there was a search that was done at the house. They did pull some items from the house that may be of interest, and they're going to go down that digital footpath to try and figure out how the two knew each other. It looks like from communications that they were at least speaking about mid-September. King and Scott were talking to each other about mid-September to obviously the day that she disappeared. So there's a lot of things that they still have to sort through and understand the details to really understand what happened here.
All right, thank you very much, Kristen. That's KYW Crime and Justice reporter Kristen Johanson joining us. And we will have more on the community response to this tragedy coming up in our next segment, which is coming up right after this.
There's no words that can describe the grief. There are no words that can take away the pain.
She was trying to give. She wasn't trying to take, but someone took her from us.
We're going to fix this. And when we do it, we're going to name that bill in her name. We will get it done.
We are back on the Week in Philly as we continue with our coverage of the Kada Scott case. Now, in the wake of confirmation of her death, there were multiple public events connected to this tragedy this past week, and KYW Sunny Morgan covered some of them, and she joins us now. And Sunny, to start, you were actually the reporter here on Saturday when the remains that were eventually confirmed to be Kada Scott were found. What was that like on the ground on Saturday?
Definitely a bit tense. I remember getting out of the car and there were about a dozen or so community members out there just kind of, talking to the police, sharing their frustrations. And the police also responded and said they understand the emotion that people carried about the story. Obviously, it's a very emotional story, but definitely very tense energy from the community side, but overall, obviously very sad.
Now, on Monday, you attended a candlelight vigil for Kada Scott. Where was that? And talk a little bit about what you saw and felt there.
So the vigil was directly on the lawn outside of the middle school, the vacant middle school, Ada H. Lewis, which was where they eventually found her remains behind there. It was, again, very sad, very emotional.
This touches home. The idea that young black girls cannot be safe, even at their own workplace, in their own city, in their own town, is unacceptable.
A lot of people were, speaking out about possibly getting that school torn down in the future, but mostly obviously somber and remembering, Kada and who she was.
Then on Wednesday, you attended kind of a town hall that Mayor Sherrell Parker and other officials spoke at. What was the focus here?
So definitely the focus was, number one, to honor Kada and talk about her and her memory.
We want to make sure at this moment we lift up the family of Ms. Kada Scott.
The main thing was probably for the mayor to ease that community up there in East Germantown that's been so affected by the tragedy.
We want to say to all of the friends of the family who are present and any family members who are here that even as mayor of this city, there are no words that I can employ to remove the unimaginable pain.
People talked about all sorts of topics like, obviously violence and crime, but also what's going on the street cleaning in the community, hiring new block captains and things of that nature. So definitely wanted to just get into that community and talk to them and really ease their frustrations and comfort them.
My name is Priya Korimode. I was a dear friend of Kada's. We met in college. I wanted to speak more to what we can do in our high schools, especially for young girls and young men as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I don't think they understand the dexterity of what happened. Getting people in there to speak to our young people about this stuff, about violent offenses, about harassment, about stalking. I love my friend dearly.
Did you get the chance to talk to any family members? And if you did, how were they processing all this?
So Kada Scott's family, they haven't been really present as obviously they want to, have privacy and grieve. But her aunt was at the vigil earlier this week, and she didn't say much, but what she did say was just give the family privacy to grieve and to remember Kada and remember her smile.
At this time, just respect the privacy of the family, but we'll be setting something up so that whoever wants to do whatever, they'll be able to get it to the family. But right now, it's just trying to process it.
How is the community trying to come together? I imagine a lot of people want to do anything they can to help this family.
So, yeah, there's so many efforts I've been seeing going on. There's a GoFundMe online that her family had put together since before they found out about her, obviously, tragic death. But there's a GoFundMe. There are a couple of council people in the city, the officials that are raising funds. They're also offering a food bank and things like that to help the family and giving them gift cards and stuff so they don't have to worry about things while they're grieving.
Thank you, Sonny. KYW's Sonny Morgan joining us. Much more to get to on this edition of The Week in Philly, and we will bring it to you right after this.